Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Debates. I'm Ryan, joined by Emmanuel, and the NFL playoffs have arrived. So we're running back our weekly NFL round previews. We're going to go through each matchup. We're going to break down the teams. We're going to make our picks for the winners. We're going to go over important players, X factors, whatever needs to happen for those teams to win. We'll also be posting our full brackets out shortly after we get off this, so you can see our picks before the games even start. And then we will have at the end of the season, at the end of the playoffs, see who got the most picks right, who wins. I don't remember who won last year. I meant to check that, so I have to go back on our Instagram and find out.
I think
Um,
it was me.
was it Dwayne?
I
All
believe
right,
so.
ball knowledge. What can we say? All right, so the playoffs begin on Saturday. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. Probably watching it on Friday. They start at 4:30. We're going to start in the AFC with the wild card round. So the 14-3 Denver Broncos are the 1 seed, and they get the first round bye. They took out the Chiefs to win the AFC West with one of the best defenses in the sport. They are going to play the lowest seed that makes it through. So the first matchup, the number 3 Jaguars playing host to the number 6 Buffalo Bills. So the Bills make their 7th consecutive postseason. They finished 12-5 and enter as a wild card team for the first time since 2019. They actually lost the division to the Patriots. Reigning MVP Josh Allen had another strong season, throwing over 3,500 yards and rushing for another 579. The best part of the Bills' offense is their run game. They have the best run offense, had over 159.6 yards on the ground per game, led by James Cook's 1621 yards and 12 touchdowns. The defense often let up a lot of points, but it did allow the fewest yards in the air. Meanwhile, the Jaguars ended the season on an 8-game win streak, winning their most games since 1999 and scoring their most points in franchise history. Trevor Lawrence threw for over 4,000 yards and had a career-high 29 touchdowns, thanks to a strong receiver room. They had the best rush defense in the league, allowing only 85.6 yards per game on the ground. They had 22 interceptions, which was the second most in the NFL. So, Emmanuel, who do you got winning this matchup?
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. Can't wait to watch it. But I'm going to take the Jaguars for this first game. They've been on fire lately. Like you said, they won their last 8 games. Uh, and the Bills recently haven't been off that hot. For me, this game's X factor for me is the Bills receiving core. Uh, the Jaguars have led the league in rush defense since week 11. Truthfully, the Bills wide receiver core is what can I say? Extremely lacking in the talent department. There's some good guys, but there's no definitive number one there. So it's going to be real interesting to see how well Josh Allen can do if the run game gets shut down, which we have seen in the Bills' offensive play sometimes week in and week out. It all depends. But however, if or sorry, not Josh Allen, I meant to say James Cook. If James Cook can't be shut down, then I expect the Bills to win. I just don't think that's likely, though. I think the Jaguars will force Josh Allen to pass the ball a lot, and I believe the Jaguars defense will take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's why this is a very intriguing matchup for me. You've got the best run offense versus the best run defense. And, you know, Cook isn't the only threat on the ground. It's also Josh Allen. When he doesn't throw, he's one of the best rushing quarterbacks. However, I agree. I feel like the Jaguars are going to be ready for that. They're going to they're going to challenge Josh Allen, throw the ball, because we trust that we can probably shut down those guys out there. I think that's what the Eagles did when they played a few weeks ago. Josh Allen has had several games this year, underwhelming stats because he really doesn't have anyone to throw to. He's also had a couple multi-interception games because, again, not the guys aren't running good routes and whatever. He's forced to kind of just throw it into dangerous territory to try to get something going. Obviously, it's hard to doubt a guy who's won an MVP. He's had big games. He's that guy. But I think the Jaguars are hot, and the matchup favors them defensively. So I'm also going the Jaguars.
Not to mention the Jaguars are also playing at home.
Yeah, that too. Home field advantage always in play. All right, and I think Dwayne, you also have the Jaguars, so clean sweep for us. All right, next it's the Patriots and the Chargers on Sunday night. So the Chargers, they finished 11-6 for the second consecutive season. They look to make it out of the wild card round for the first time in the Justin Herbert era. The
Hmm.
offense took a step back from last year, but the defense made massive improvements. They had 19 interceptions, third most in the league. Herbert threw for over 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, despite inconsistencies from his wide receiver room. Big problem was their offensive line. Justin Herbert got sacked 54 times and was pressured a league leading 183 times. And that resulted in him getting a hand fracture over the last few weeks because he's just getting absolutely obliterated every time he throws the ball. Patriots lived up to the preseason hype. 14 games for the first time since 2016 when Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls. The offense was led by MVP candidate Drake May. He threw for 4,394 yards and 31 touchdowns. He had the top QB rating and highest completion percentage among all quarterbacks. Overall, they had the second best offense by points scored and the fourth best defense. However, they did have the easiest schedule. They only played three playoff teams: the Bills twice, Steelers, and Panthers, if you count them a playoff team. And they
Hmm.
went 2-2. So, Emmanuel, who do you got?
So I think like most people here, Patriots are probably the easy favorites for this. Though of course, like you said, they have the easiest schedule, and I think we have to address that. It's the same thing for what the Eagles a year or two ago, where we had the easiest schedule and won the Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
anyway. Um, guys, it's a schedule. There's not much the team can do about it. Just go in, play, and win. And they showed that they can win. Um, Not to mention that the Chargers have a top 10 defense, Patriots have a top 10 offense. Both QBs have been sacked a lot. You said Justin Herbert's been sacked 55 times. Drake May has been sacked 47 times. Um, Patriots are fourth in rushing, second in scoring defense, ninth in passing yards, sixth in run defense, fourth in points allowed. And for me, this X factor is like you said, the offensive line. Whoever's offensive line can protect the quarterback the best will win it, which I feel like is pretty obvious when you look at the game of football. But it's especially important for this matchup where you know that the quarterbacks are going to get pressured a lot and more than likely going to get taken down a lot. It's just who can keep their quarterback up the longest, which gives them the best chance to win. Because both of these quarterbacks are crazy good, and these guys have the weapons to do this, even though the Chargers uh wide receiver core is probably a little less than the Patriots when it comes to star power at least. But overall, I think the Chargers have a better overall wide receiver room. But hey, what can we do about that?
Yeah, and the best team they've played this year were the Bills. They play them twice because they're in their division. They won early on in the season. It was week 5, 23-20. Then they played again week 15, fresh off the Patriots bye, and they lost 31-35. So both games were close. Both games were shootouts. Both team won one. I mean, it's a pretty fair matchup. So if they can go toe to toe against Josh Allen and that offense, not a perfect team as we just talked about, but still a team that's been there, done that. That tells me that, against good teams they can go, and against the bad teams they obliterated them as they should. So it's not like they were like losing a game to the Jets or anything, and you're like, what was happening? So yeah, I'm going Patriots just because Drake May is proven to be an elite quarterback. It's his first playoff game, but I don't think anything will change for him. Herbert's got playoff experience, but he hasn't won a game, and I just don't trust this Chargers offense to step up when it needs to. They've had some good games, but they've also had some games where guys are getting minimal targets. Like no one's getting looks, and that offensive line is just. I mean, it's like the Chiefs last year. It feels like anything can get through that, and I think that's going to bite them and cost them the game. So we all got Patriots as well. And we'll move on to the last matchup. It's the Texans and the Steelers, the 5-4 matchup. You talk about the Jaguars ending the season hot. The Texans ended the season even hotter. They won 9 straight games to end the season, finished 12-5 after starting 0-3. Big reason was their defense, which allowed the fourth fewest rushing yards, sixth fewest passing yards, and had the third most interceptions. While not as dominant as the defense, the offense took care of the ball. It only turned the ball over 12 times. In total, they got 3,000 passing yards out of Stride and 1,000 passing yards from Nico Collins. Steelers are here by the skin of their teeth. They beat the Ravens in the last game of the season on a missed field goal, 10-7 for the third straight season. Now they have been playing good football. Aaron Rodgers ended the season strong. He threw 247 yards a game in the final 5 games of the season where they went 4-1. Big reason why they were able to overtake the Ravens. The defense struggled against the pass, but they've improved in the run game, and they forced 12 fumbles. It's the second most in football. So not a powerhouse matchup here, Emmanuel. Who do you got?
I'm gonna take the Texans. To me, the Steelers aren't trustworthy enough. Their offense sometimes have seen sluggish, and oftentimes, and it takes them time to get going. And I don't think they'll have the fortune of doing so against the Texans defense, which is absolutely stifling
Mm-hmm.
opposing offenses. I got some stats here. Texans offense is 14th in passing, 22nd in rushing, 13th in points scored. The Texans lack a run game, and the Texans are also still missing Tank Dell, which affects their offensive lot. But the Texans defense is sixth in passing, fourth in run, second in points allowed. Meanwhile, we got the Steelers offense in here, which is just overall, ugh, 22nd in passing, 26th in rushing, 15th in points scored. Now they do get DK Metcalf coming back this week, so that should help them out a lot. But the Steelers defense also isn't the greatest. They're 29th in passing, so just keep throwing the ball, honestly. 13th in rushing, which is above average, 17th in points allowed. Now, my X factor for this game is going to be the Texans defense. They need to keep the pressure up, tire out Aaron Rodgers, and force him to stay on the move. The thing is for most teams, usually you have to rely on your offense, or your offense has to carry your defense, something like that. But no, this is not for the Texans. Texans, the defense is going to carry the entire team. That's what they do. They're that good. Like this, oh my goodness, don't get me started on the defense of the Texans. They're so amazing with their pass rush, their coverage. It's beautiful to watch this team. And honestly, if they can get some of their offense going, they could easily rule the West or the AFC, especially with whatever is going on with the Chiefs with their team building. But I digress.
Yeah, I'm also going Texans. Steelers have momentum, which I think means something. It's not like they accidentally got in the playoffs. Yes, bad division, but they did play good football down the stretch. And Aaron Rodgers especially has stepped up for that team and is a big reason why they're here. That said, though, no one's hotter than the Texans. 9-0. Are they necessarily going to take that all the way to the Super Bowl? I don't know. At some point, you do need to put some points on the board, and you're going to face some better offenses that are going to force the defense to put more work in it. Similar situation with the Eagles, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think for at least this round, this should be a pretty solid win for the Texans. I've heard some storylines talking about they're a Texas team. They're used to heat. They're going to Pittsburgh in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
which could mean something, but at the same time, I don't think that's going to hurt this team too much for at least the first round. So we're all going Texans as well. So we're all in agreement for the AFC.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the NFC, where this path to the Super Bowl goes through Seattle, where the Seahawks were the 1 seed. They had a 14-3 record, earning them the first round bye. First matchup is the number 5 Rams and the number 4 Panthers. So the Rams, they looked like the team to beat for most of the season. They were the 1 seed for a bit there. They kind of struggled down the stretch. They are 3-2 in their last 5. But the NFC was so tight that they end up with a 5 seed despite a good season. They had the best offense in football. They scored 30.5 points a game. Matthew Stafford, at 37 years old, turned in one of the best seasons of his career, probably the best season of his career. He's in consideration for MVP. 4,700 passing yards, 46 touchdowns. Then he had Puka Nacua, who caught 1,700 of those passes. He had 129 receptions, which led the league. They also had the 7th most rushing yards. The defense wasn't particularly dominant in any particular area, but they did allow the 10th fewest points. The defense is young and pretty hungry. The Panthers are in the playoffs for the first time since 2017. but they have a losing record, 8-9 on the season. They actually lost the last game of the season, but ended up making it due to tiebreaker shenanigans. They were bottom 10 in scoring, middle of the pack in defense. Bryce Young did have his best season to date, 3,011 yards. And McMillan, the rookie, had 1,000 receptions, receiving yards. One of the defense wasn't great, but one of their best outings actually came against the Rams in week 13 when they beat them 31-28 and forced Stafford to turn the ball over 3 times. So I don't know if that means anything. Emmanuel, who do you got?
So yeah, do I really want to go? Do I want to be different here? My initial thought was go with the Rams. They're getting Devontae Adams back, which is a huge boon on them. Huge boon for them, offensively, especially in the red zone where he's usually the go-to guy. The Rams are first in passing, seventh in rushing, number one scoring offense. Their defense is pretty good. Panthers offense is horrendous. Defense is pretty bad. Dang, you know what? We're going upset here. We're going to
Okay.
go with the Carolina Panthers. X
Okay.
factor is going to be the Panthers' run game. If the Panthers can control the tempo of the game via their own run game, then they have a real shot of winning this. I believe that they're going to be in Carolina. Carolina Panthers fans are pretty crazy since they have nothing happy to be about, or they have no reason to be happy at all. So they're going to be as loud, as obnoxious as us Eagles fans are, probably. And I think if the Panthers can control the run game, control the tempo of the game, they have a real shot on winning this. So I'm calling an upset right here. Panthers beat the Rams to advance on to the next round of the playoffs.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Yeah. I mean, this Rams team, like, I feel like they can win the Super Bowl. That offense alone is scary. Um, did talk about the 3-2 in their last five. The defense hasn't looked great to end the season. Now they faced some good teams, but they allowed 34 to the Lions. They won that game, but Lions scored a bunch on them. That's good offense.
Hmm.
The Seahawks, they lost that in overtime, allowed 38 to the Seahawks. Then they lost to the Falcons, who were well out of the playoffs by then, and allowed 27 points. So they've looked beatable on the defensive side. Those were good offenses for the most part, but then you got the Falcons scoring 27 on you. The Cardinals scored 20 on them. You know, so that defense does worry me heading into
Hmm.
some good matchups. Panthers are not necessarily a formidable offense. It's to be seen what a guy like Bryce Young can do in the playoffs. Um, Now he was benched early in the season, or was he hurt? I know Andy Dalton got some starts.
I don't recall. I think he might have been. No, I think he
Was
got
he
hurt. I think
was
he
he
might
hurt?
have got
Okay.
hurt.
Yeah. So that said, though, I mean Stafford's had an incredible season, and I'm not going to bet against him. Last time they were in a spot a couple years back, I predicted them to go all the way. Might do that again. We'll see. Um, but I'm going with the Rams winning this one.
Yeah,
But
that's a safe bet right there.
look,
I'm
I
over
know
here
I
on the
respect
defense.
it. We need for the content. I love it. Um, all right, let's go. Packers and Bears NFC North matchup. Two longtime rivals. So the Packers, they're kind of limping into the playoffs here. Micah Parsons, he's out for the season. They don't have him. Jordan Love, he's been banged up. He missed the last 2 games with a concussion. Luckily, they have one of the best backup QBs in the game, but still, you'd rather Jordan Love.
Second to Tanner McKee.
Second to Tanner McKee, of course. When healthy, Love was great. 3,381 pass yards, 23 touchdowns. He was able to cut his interceptions in half, basically, which was huge for them. The offense has weapons all around. They have a lot of wide receivers, but somebody's hurt every week, it feels like. They can never have a full team put together. The defense was 11th, but without Parsons, it's definitely not as intimidating. The Bears, first season under Ben Johnson, they won the division and they won more than 10 games, both for the first time since 2018. Caleb Williams elevated his game. He threw for 3,942 yards, 27 touchdowns, and took control for several game-winning drives. They had the fourth best run offense in the regular season, yet really great duo of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. The
Yeah.
defense wasn't great, 23rd overall, but it was the offense that was able to keep them in some games. A lot of comeback wins, which I have a stat for later. So, Emmanuel, who do you got?
Give me the Bears. We're going over here with injury. Look, we're going to look at injuries first, right? Jordan
Mhm.
Love's coming back, so he's starting. Josh Jacob is returning. However, on the Bears side, I heard Rome Odunze is limited, DJ Moore is limited, Luther Burden is questionable. Um, so here's my X factor for the game. We got Coda and Kanai. Anybody remember? Shout out people that remember Brother Bear, the movie with David Montgomery and Kyle Manungai being the two characters, Coda and Kanai. The Bears have an incredible running back duo going on, having a sort of off-brand version of what the Detroit has with
Mhm.
Jahmyr
I like
Gibbs
it.
and
Yeah.
David Montgomery. So we saw the Packers give up 200 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns to Derrick Henry alone. And with Micah Parsons still out, I don't see the run defense being improved at all in such a short amount of time. So I'm expecting the Bears to run the ball up and down on the Packers, and I don't think the Packers are really going to have any chance. And I think the Bears' defense is going to be fully energized because they won't be on the field as much. I feel like the Packers are going to be tired, sluggish because they're constantly having to defend against the run. And I think that's really going to be the difference here is just the run game. And I don't think the Packers have any choice to stop it. I mean, the Packers have the 18th in rushing, Bears are third. I mean, that's just a setup for disaster for the Packers.
Yeah, this Bears team has been really exciting to watch. I mean, I really the only game I've watched of them was the game against the Eagles, but they really impressed me in that game. That was a 24-15 win over the Eagles. Obviously that offense we'll talk about in just a sec has its flaws and stuff, but they were not intimidated by the defending champions and really timely running. The run game was just dominating, getting through. They found the weakness, they jumped on it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Usually for a team, this is this group's first time in the playoffs. You may doubt what can they do. We don't know what they're like in these big games against some good teams. But this team, they're never out of it. They had
Hmm.
6 wins after trailing in the final 2 minutes of the game. 6 times they were able to come back down in the last 2 minutes. That is the most ever in NFL since 1970 when the leagues merged. So this offense, it doesn't matter, how much time is left in the clock, how much they're down by. Caleb Williams has proven that he can drive down the field and win it. Their run game, their receivers, all of it is gonna play good when they need to. So
And
yeah.
sorry, I was going to say one more thing about the Packers defense. They're 11th in passing, but I believe that stat is more deceiving than what it is, especially with the loss of Michael Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously when you have a good D line, your corners look really good because there's pressure on the quarterback they're throwing in everything else. But with Michael Parsons out and there's not that much pressure on the quarterback, I feel like that passing is probably closer like to maybe 15th or 16th,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So I feel like the Packers or the Bears are going to have a good chance of throwing the ball as well.
Yeah.
Because Caleb Williams was close to getting over 4,000 yards passing, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe I think
Three
he was.
thousand nine hundred forty-two. He was right there. A
Yeah,
couple more game or two more, he would have gotten that.
yeah,
Actually, the Bears defense, they led the league with 23 interceptions,
yeah.
but they didn't really get any sacks. They had the 29th most sacks, but at least in the secondary, they
You're
came up with
locked
some
up. Yeah,
timely interceptions. So I like that matchup for them. I like the comeback stats. Definitely going the Bears here too. I think all three of us has the Bears as well. Moving on. All right, and last but certainly not least, it's a NFC championship matchup from 3 years ago, 2 years ago. The Niners and the Eagles. Niners, they were almost the top seed, but since the NFC is so close, they went from almost getting the 1 seed to now they're going to Philadelphia for playoff football, which is two opposite sides of the spectrum there. Um, Christian McCaffrey healthy this year, that played a big part. He led the team in both rushing and receiving yards. So another historic season for him. Purdy missed a couple weeks, only played 9 games, but when he was on the field, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He had 20 touchdowns, threw for 240.8 yards a game. The offense was fifth in passing yards, And since Purdy came back in week 11, they've averaged 30 points a game. However, the defense in that span has somehow gotten worse. They've allowed the third most points since week 11. They had the fewest sacks, second fewest interceptions in the league. The Eagles became the first team in 20 seasons to win the NFC East back to back. However, their offense is definitely not the same offense that won the Super Bowl last year. They were 19th in scoring and led the league in 3-and-outs. However, Hurts still threw for 3,224 yards. He had a career high 25 passing touchdowns. Smith and Brown both had over 1,000 receiving yards. Goddard was the best tight end with 11 touchdowns. The defense, however, kept them in games, won them several close games. They allowed the eighth fewest passing yards, and they forced critical turnovers against a lot of really good quarterbacks. Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Josh Allen. Those guys were not able to, well, I guess Herbert beat us, but they had a lot of turnovers still against the Eagles defense. So, Emmanuel, who do you got?
So obviously, right. This game here, everybody else, nobody cares about the other games, really. Everybody's coming here to watch this, right? I'm gonna go with the hometown team here with the Birds. They got to come into our house, and we, of course, are going to give them a nice, warm Philly welcome because we just love this team. We love the 49ers because when we see them in the playoffs, we know it's an easy win every time. That team can't match up with us. Look, the 49ers defense is 25th in passing. 25th in passing. There's 32 teams. They're a bottom 10 passing defense. They're 11th in rushing, 13th overall in points scored. So they're pretty good against the run. That's okay. We weren't good running the ball anyway, unless Tank Bisbee was running the ball for us.
Mm.
Now, on one hand, the Eagles' offense is 23rd in passing, 18th in rushing, and 19th in points scored. Our defense, however, is 8th best in passing, 22nd in running defense, 5th overall in points allowed. Now, I have two X factors here. I have one specifically for the overall game, and I have one specifically for the not Sixers, for the Eagles. Defense, the X factor for the overall game is defense wins championships. I really think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring game with how these offenses and defenses are matched up. For the Eagles, though, they get their own little X factor, like I said. Their O-line in the game with Tanner McKeen did pretty well protecting him, only often allowing sacks because McKee panicked and rushed out of the pocket when it was uncalled for. So I'm really hoping that the starting O-line here, is able to perform to the level of our expectations, especially with the return of Lane Johnson coming back, who's a huge help to this offensive line. He brings veteranship, he brings experience. His skill set is incredible. I know he was out most of the season, so hopefully he was able to knock off the rust. But look, the Eagles, Kevin Patulio, I'm talking to you specifically right now. Me and you, one-on-one, we got to talk. If I see one more curl route out here, and if I don't see a A.J. Brown deep ball, or a Devontae Smith, because they can't guard him, nobody in the league can guard A.J. Brown, please stop the run game. We're not good at it, okay? It's okay to admit. I don't mind if we spice it up once or twice, but can we please keep our foot on their necks? When we get this lead, keep our foot on their necks. Because like the Bills, we almost choked it away because we didn't keep our foot on their necks. This has happened multiple times with this team where with the Cowboys, we blew a 21-point lead because we didn't keep their foot on our necks. We have to use our offensive weapons. We have Dallas Goedert. We have A.J. Brown. We have Devontae Smith. We have Saquon Barkley. We have Tank Bigsby. We have Jalen Hurts as our quarterback, Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl winner, of course. And yet our offense sucks. The Eagles' offense is 23rd in passing. We have a top 10 wide receiver, one of the best second-string wide receivers in the league, and we're struggling with passing the ball. I know our O-line's been banged up, and Kevin Patulio has been his own little mini terrorist. But when you watch the game of the Eagles versus, who do we play? Washington Commanders with Tanner McKee starting, we were moving the ball. There was good plays going on. We were getting fourth or fifth string wide receivers involved, and they were doing well. Can we please just keep it up? Hey, maybe Kevin Patulio this whole time he's been sabotaging us, and he was just holding back, waiting for the playoffs to start. I pray that's true. But I'm going with the Eagles. I'm done with my rant.
Yeah, we didn't do many episodes during the season, so we didn't get to really rant about the Eagles. I feel like we could, talk about this season for 40 minutes plus, with all the ups and downs.
Yeah,
Bottom line is what I've learned from this team is that, you know, the coaching staff is very stubborn. Nick Sirianni is very stubborn. He's the type of guy where he won, and I think he views that changing your offense is like a sign of weakness, making those adjustments. He's kind of a it ain't broke, don't fix kind of mentality, which I like the mindset that we're the best. No one's going to make us change, but at the same time, that's sports. You have to make adjustments. The best teams make adjustments. In fact, that's a sign of being a great team is being able to make adjustments when adversity comes your way. You know, honestly, yes, there's a lot of things this season that would make me have a doubt for this Eagles team, even in victories, right? I feel how many times did we win this year? And yet it felt like we lost, right? The
yeah,
conversations afterwards, you didn't feel good, which is a weird feeling, right? Because it felt like that was way too close or whatever. But I'm not going to doubt against this team until they lose. Like Jalen Hurts has done nothing but prove that he can win a game. This Eagles team is fresh off a Super Bowl. Are they going to repeat this year? I don't think so. But until I see them fail in the playoffs, like I'm not going to bet against them.
yeah,
And it's not to say that if they lose in the playoffs, like they're done for, they're going to never win it again. But I'm not going to bet against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles until they lose.
yeah.
And one thing that I think we don't remember because one of these games was a loss and the other was really close. Chargers game, Jalen Hurts had like 5 interceptions, the worst game of his career.
Yeah,
Take those out, he only had like 3 interceptions this year, which is continues to be great at not turning the ball over. But that game, the last drive of the game, we needed to score to win. We score a
mm,
touchdown, we win. We were going to score before he got picked off, like close to the red zone. Again, bad route or whatever. Like he shouldn't have thrown it, whatever. But he needed to win. Screw the old offensive plan. We're going down. We're throwing the ball. Then against the Bills, several times lives that were ruined by pass interference calls, right? The one on AJ Brown,
mm,
which should have been a PI. And then another time, Devontae Smith just didn't catch the ball, which he should have. So I do trust that if it comes down to, okay, maybe we're playing conservative like we normally do. Maybe we're up by a score or two. Maybe the Niners are starting to put pressure. I trust that Jalen Hurts is going to say, screw it. We're going on the field. We're scoring. In the playoffs, I believe he's going to do that. Again, he has yet to prove me wrong. So I'm also going the Eagles. I think yes, it could be close, but honestly, if they win 13-12, I don't care. I want to see a W. I'll take it any way we get it.
yeah.
All right, that does it for our first round matchup review and predictions. Again, we will post the full brackets shortly, so you can see our picks. We'll go all the way to the Super Bowl. We'll crown our champions. We'll be back next week and so forth, making our picks for each matchup, breaking down how the last games went, how the next games are going to go, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.